Welcome to Gwinnett Daily Post Sports, doing another Facebook Live session. Appreciate anybody that's going to join us here in the near future to talk about Gwinnett County sports, all happenings. As of right now, I know all of us have been watching all the Olympics. Paul, you've been staying up late watching this stuff, or what?
Yeah, I'm pretty into the Olympics. I enjoy it. I like most of the sports. I get into from Florida, so I like the beach volleyball a lot. Indoor volleyball is good too, and then the swimming. The more smack talk, the better. I think that's really grabbed the nation's attention. I think other sports can learn something if you talk smack. We'll pay attention.
That's fun. The trash talking didn't work out too well for Leclose, the French swimmer. We stare down Michael Phelps, as I said, poked the bear. Phelps had a great swim there and continues to just stockpile the medals. But swimming's always pretty exciting for me. What do you feel like the worst sport is? Anything you can't possibly watch, Sherpa?
I don't really get how equestrian is an Olympic sport because the horse is the athlete, and I thought the Olympics were for people. Maybe if they're gonna have equestrian, they could have like the Westminster Dog Show people come out, like they just start annual medals for that. It just doesn't make a lot of sense for me. And then I guess I get some of at least the jumping courses and things like that. That's something, but their dressage is a little ridiculous. For them to have the horses
do the horses get a medal or what?
I guess I read a story about how they get them all there. They fly them first class, and better than we do. So it's I guess, but it still seems silly to me that the horse, Olympic medals are dependent on whether or not a horse performs that day.
Yeah, I think we're all excited about track and field too. I mean, that's always fun to watch. It's kind of like swimming. Anytime there's a race, it's even if you don't know anything about it, you want to see the folks race, see who wins. It's also great for us. We got a few people in the track and field. I know you talked to a few of them going to the track and field. Kidboy Johnson's going to be a hammer thrower. I think he's got a shot to medal. And then also you got to look at a couple of runners. What do you know about Aaliyah Abrams and her chances? Just going to kind of fun to be there kind of thing, huh?
Yeah. I don't know how realistic it will be for her to medal. I think she may have a chance to sneak into that final race for her. She had a great season in South Carolina as a freshman. She's a Grayson grad. They almost won the state title when she was there as a senior when she was finally healthy, and she's had another fully healthy year to train. So I think she's only gonna keep growing with her career. But I don't know if she'll actually get a chance to medal. But it's certainly neat that she has the opportunity to be there as a freshman in college, competing on that stage.
Yeah, Akuya Banga-Crawfey from Archer, she also got into it. She has a chance to have some fun there. I know I emailed her with her and texted a little bit. She's having fun down there and looking forward to a fun Olympics. But like you said, it's going to be tough for those kids to medal. But Kidboy Johnson certainly got a chance in the hammer throw. He's going to give it all he has. It might be his last Olympic game, so we're rooting for Kidboy to do a great job as always. Another Olympic story that's kind of popped up since the swimming got going. Amanda Weir was supposed to be on the 400 free relay. It looked like it. At least everybody thought she was going to be on the 400 free relay. Got bumped by the U.S. coaching staff in favor of Dana Vollmer. Got a pretty controversial decision. Kind of really upset Amanda and kind of really punch in the gut after you feel like you've done everything that you need to do to qualify for this team and be there for the night finals. Do you have any kind of input on that, Paul? Anything that you've seen or noticed?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a subjective thing. There's no rules in place. They're not required to pick a swimmer if they swim a certain time or they place in a top three like they are for individual events. For the relays, they kind of go at their discretion. But, I mean, certainly from what Amanda told you for the story that's up on our site now, it kind of seems like if you're going to pull an Olympian from the relay races for the final after they swim in the prelims, there should be an open dialogue about that. And that's the biggest issue with that whole thing I take is they didn't communicate with her. She came down, probably going to be her last Olympics, and they don't even tell her, well, there's a chance you may not be swimming in the finals. I think those pills are a little easier to swallow if there's an open dialogue going on and you don't have an expectation that, well, if I swim a certain time in the prelim, I did great at the trials, I should be there at the finals, and then they kind of just left her to her own devices and then pulled the rug out from under her.
Yeah, I think it's also frustrating just that you have these Olympic trials to qualify for a reason, and if you're third in the race, the Dana Vollmer's sixth, then you just assume you beat her 3 times at trial. That probably puts you ahead of the pecking order over her. I can understand getting Katie Ledecky on there. She's a superstar, breaking world records. I mean, she's a great swimmer. You have to have her on that relay.
Right, she's a beast.
Yeah, but I think just putting Dana Vollmer on there, just her credentials didn't match up. She's a great butterflyer, but not necessarily does it in the freestyle like Amanda Weir does. And Amanda's American record holder. I mean, if you have the American record holder on your team, you might want her on the relay, I think. But I'm not a swim coach, what I know.
Yeah, and she's also, that's really the only event she's down there for, so she's going to be fresher than the other swimmers, so she's going to have that extra gear to kick it into in that final relay and give them the push. She certainly would have swam a faster time in the final than she did in the prelims. She told you she felt great during that swim, so it's disappointing, but she does get a medal for being in the prelims, so I guess it's a small consolation prize for her.
It's not bad. It's her 4th medal, which is really awesome. She got some airtime with Kevin Durant last night during the TV coverage at Sports Center. So that's a nice little memory. Selfie with Kevin Durant was. I'm sure she'll be a Warriors fan now. Just want to tell you a little bit about some football news coming up. I mean, a lot of commitments we've had lately. Tell us about the Lanier commitments that we've had recently.
The senior duo of linebacker Juwan Jones and defensive end Mike Allen both made their decisions this week. On Sunday, Juwan Jones committed to Western Kentucky. He had some offers from some other places like Georgia Southern. Wisconsin was really the first school to get on him, and I kind of thought that might be where he was going. It was a big school, and they were on him pretty early, but he chose Western Kentucky. Kind of good fit for him. He's a good linebacker. Had 120 tackles last year for the Longhorns. As you know, they had their 2nd straight region championship. And then up front, Mike Allen is a guy who kind of blew up in the spring. Started getting offers from a lot of big places, including Alabama, Georgia, Florida State. All the Power 5 schools started coming after him. And he committed on Monday to Wake Forest. A little surprising because of, like I said, they had those other big schools that come after him. But, again, goes back to those relationships. Like I said, Wake Forest was the first school to recruit him. Allen blew up this spring. Last spring, Wake Forest was there, even before he had his great junior season. So they kind of built that relationship, and they were able to catch in on it. Pretty interesting. According to Rivals, he's the highest-rated player to ever commit to Wake Forest. Yeah. And he's ranked 169 in the country, and he's a 4-star prospect. He's a really good player, but kind of gets to build his own path. He'll be the guy that builds something there at Wake Forest for that team. Yeah,
Allen certainly looks the part. He's a big, tall kid. I think they list him at 6'6", 245. Now, I can see him putting a lot of weight on for the college level, being a great player. Must be something in the water there at Lanier, too. They have some really great defensive prospects. My guy Derek Brown going to Auburn last year, of course, and then Tyler Taylor's going to be obviously a huge recruit they have right now.
Yeah.
Offers from a lot of folks, and just playing some great defense. I think that's going to be the case again this year. They talked to those guys for the football preview, and they think they're not going to be a big drop-off on defense, and with that kind of talent, it kind of makes sense that you expect to play at that high level, and I think in their class they can certainly do it.
They're in a good spot, and like you said, they got a lot of guys coming back. They've also got C.J. Burris as a safety that I really like that started for them. You mentioned Tyler Taylor. He's blowing up just like Allen, but even on a bigger level, he's kind of he'll be one of the big fish for the Georgia coaches to try to come into Gwinnett County, and like we talked about before on the show, they've got to start landing some of those guys, and I think he'll be a big priority for them.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's going to go to Auburn, but that's okay. I have other feelings hurt.
Shocking.
Shocking prediction, right? Jemias Williams also made a recent announcement. Tell us a little about that, what he's got going.
Yeah, he's set a commitment date. It'll be August 27th, which is the day that Grayson plays IMG Academy. He's going to do it at the school at 3 o'clock. He announced his top 5 at the opening, and looks like he's kind of narrowed it down to maybe just 3 schools he's going to be choosing from on that commitment date. It'll be between Ohio State, South Carolina, and Georgia. Clemson and Tennessee are also in the mix still, but I think those first 3 that I mentioned will really be the ones that land him. Kind of interesting. It's really been trending as a surprise. South Carolina kind of seems to be the favorites to land him right now. Travarius Robinson, an assistant coach there, was known as T-Rob. He was at Florida and helped develop a lot of those big-time draft picks they've had as defensive backs with Muschamp. And I think he's kind of got Williams thinking he can do the same for him at South Carolina, which it might be a good spot for him, but certainly I don't think, Georgia and Ohio State, those coaches, they spend a lot of time recruiting him, and they're not going to let him go easy.
Yeah. T-Rob did a great job recruiting at Florida and Auburn. He got a lot of prospects he landed, and also, like you said, developed a lot of those guys to become first-round picks. But I think he's got a legitimate chance to go there. I've always kind of, for some reason, felt like he's going to go to Ohio State. That seemed like a good spot for him. That was my prediction all along, but like you said, South Carolina's making a move here.
Yeah, and Ohio State, you would have thought earlier in the summer was the front runner. They had that satellite camp at Central Gwinnett. He was there. He got a lot of one-on-one instruction with Ohio State's defensive backs coach, Greg Schiano, and Urban Meyer were there to get an up-close and personal look at him. And he's taken some visits up there, I think. So I think that, truthfully, I think it'll come down to Ohio State and South Carolina, but we'll see if Kirby Smart and Mel Tucker can get in there, make a little late push for the local people. They'll make them happier if it stays at home. But, yeah, right now, I guess South Carolina would be my pick if I got a pick.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy day. Announcement the day of the IMG game. It's already going to be crazy out there with the television broadcast, and a lot of fans are going to see that game. Even if you're not a Grayson person, you're probably going to go out there and see all the talent on one football field. It's going to make for a pretty crazy day. Certainly going to be a lot of media out there, a lot of recruiting services wanting to see what Jim Ison announces.
Yeah,
it's going to be a crazy day, I think.
Maybe fighting for my Bojangles in the press box at Grayson. They always take care of us. And,
yeah, take reservations over there in the press box. Paul needs to grab some.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Let's go. Another commitment of recent note. Central Gwinnett's Dante Burton. I know you've probably seen a little bit more of him than I have, but kid that played at Loganville, transferred to Central. He made a big commitment here recently.
Yeah, he's a junior, so 2018 class, and he committed to North Carolina. He's the third Gwinnett prospect that's in that class that's already gone ahead and made his decision even before their junior year begins, which is kind of crazy to think about. You got a lot of time, you got a lot of visits you can take. No one's forcing you to make those decisions. It seems like might be a little bit rushed, but he felt really confident in it. And like I said, he's a transfer. He came over from Loganville. Saw him a little bit at the Central Gwinnett camp with Ohio State. Coach Todd Wofford just raves about the guy's ball skills and says he's really smooth with his footwork and everything. So seems like another big pickup for the Tar Heels.
Yeah. And in your Post Patterns blog, it comes out every Monday on our site. You guys can check it out. You talked a little about this week about the TV games and how exciting is it to see Gwinnett County football on that level and get kind of that national attention for some of those big games.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's certainly, obviously, it's a big deal for us. We cover it. We know what the quality of players they have, and for it to kind of get to be broadcast to a national audience, like we mentioned earlier, that IMG Grayson game, that's going to be on ESPN2. Grayson's playing Hoover later in the year in Alabama, which is obviously a powerhouse under current Colquitt County Rush Props. They won a bunch of state championships. That game's going to be on ESPNU, and then early in the year, we always start the season off with the Corky Kell Classic, and all those games are going to be on Fox Sports Southeast. So, Gwinnett County high school fans, or even if they're not in Gwinnett anymore, they still get a chance to get an up close and look at some of the talent that's in the county this year. And Georgia Public Broadcasting always does a couple games of the week. I know they've got the Archer and Norcross game already scheduled, and then obviously there's one more. Greater Atlanta Christian goes out to Valor Christian, all the way out in Colorado. That game's going to be on ESPNU as well, and that'll be an interesting matchup because it's two big-time quarterbacks for the class of 2017. GAC's Davis Mills, he's an Elite 11 quarterback, committed to Stanford, and then Valor Christian's got their own Elite 11 quarterback, Dylan McCaffrey's little brother. I forget what's his first name, or is it Dylan? It is Dylan. Yeah, you're right. So he's committed to Michigan, so a little bit of a interesting storyline there because Stanford only offered one quarterback for the class, and it was Mills, not McCaffrey, despite his brother being there and being the Heisman candidate. So maybe a little chance for McCaffrey to show that maybe they should have gone with him instead of Mills, but Mills will probably be able to prove it too. We've certainly seen a lot from him in the last few years to think he's probably the best quarterback in the country if we had our say. Sure.
Yeah, I talked to Davis this week, and he's excited about that game. He understands that ESPN's going to hype up that matchup with two quarterbacks. He's cool with it. He thinks it'll be a fun time. Certainly going to be competing to win that football game, but a great trip for the GAC football players. They get to go kind of have that college road trip experience. They're all flying out there. They're going to have they're allowed two bags, so one bag with their personal stuff and one bag with their football equipment for Friday nights, the helmets and whatnot. So they're going to pack on the planes and go out there and play. They're staying in the same hotel where the Air Force Academy opponents stay, the road opponents. So it'll be a cool experience, I think. It should be a good football game, and certainly something those kids will always remember. The longest road trip I can remember a Gwinnett County football team take. I think Beaufort's gone to Ohio and Texas are the only two I could compare it to.
Yeah.
It's a pretty long trip. It's a 10 o'clock game, so we can watch our high school football here in Gwinnett and then sit down and watch another game on TV with GAC. So that should be a lot of fun. We're also in the middle of a Super 6 season. We're releasing our Super 6. The first one's coming out tomorrow. It's going to be Tony Gray from Grayson. What did you learn about Tony throughout the process? What do you feel like his future is?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the one thing that Jeff Herron, Grayson's head coach, kept harping on about Tony to me was just his speed and quickness for a big guy is not something that you come across every day. He's obviously, the size stands out. You see the kid, you can tell that's a big-time kid. He's going to be playing offensive line somewhere, but really the difference is the quickness, which kind of makes it in his athleticism. Big guys really shouldn't be able to move as well as he does, but it's kind of scary. So he's got a big-time future, and especially if he keeps adding on strength and good weight and things like that as he moves on and progresses. As far as his recruitment, he just told me he's open. He doesn't have any favorites. He doesn't have any timeline. He's not trying to make a decision by a certain date. He's got over 31 offers from, you can go ahead and name it any Power 5 school you want. They've probably inquired about whether or not he'd like to play football for them. So he's got a big-time future.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question, where you think he might go. So apparently he has no clue, so you probably don't have a clue either.
He's got no clue. I mean, I guess I would say there's some schools that done a good job recruiting him. I know Georgia has been there to visit him a lot, and Florida State made a point to stop by and see him a bunch during the spring. He mentioned Florida to me as another school he's heard from. So he said he's heard from a lot of schools, but those are I think right now the three. Maybe Ohio State getting in the mix there too as well, and Michigan State.
That's a big decision, so you can understand Tony taking his time and want to make the right decision. It's got a lot of options. When you have that good options, I guess it's hard to pare things down sometimes. So
right.
Probably in the same boat as a lot of the Gwinnett kids. Do you get the same feeling about some other top kids that are kind of still leaving things wide open? Is anybody you can compare it to?
Yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, even on that Grayson team, there's guys that are committed like Chase Bryce and Will Taylor. Chase is going to Clemson. Will Taylor's going to Duke. They're set up. They know where they want to go, and then there's other guys like Tony and then D'Angelo Gibbs, another big-time prospect. They're both just open at this point. They're not looking to eliminate schools. They're listening to everybody's pitches, and they're all good. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys play out. But I'm a big proponent of guys. You get 5 visits, take them.
Exactly.
You get to travel the country, see some big-time atmospheres. Get some free meals. Take advantage. Go take all 5 of your visits, even if you are committed.
Yeah, and it eliminates some of the drama of committing and decommitting, and if you take it, wait till the end and see what happens. I mean, I think that's probably a good move, a good way to do it. Starting next week, we're going to be picking games on Facebook Live. You can check out me and Paul picking the games each Friday. We'll do that every Wednesday. Also going to have a pick 'em contest. Pick the winners. Flat Out Auto is sponsoring it this year. They're giving $100 each week to whoever wins the picks, a $100 gift card. So keep an eye on that. Make sure you play online. Test your Gwinnett County football prediction knowledge against us too. We'll try and do our best every week to be accurate as we break down the games. Not to make this a hugely Grayson-specific show, but you're going to Grayson tonight for a big event. Talk to the people a little bit about what's going on out there.
Yeah, it's kind of a new thing. They got a new head coach, and Jeff Herron's trying to get it. I think it'll be an annual tradition where they have the Ram night, and they bring in all the GFL coaches that are in the Grayson program. They're going to have a kind of a joint practice with the GFL kids and their coaches, and the Grayson current high school players. They're going to be out there working with them out there. So it'll be just kind of a good event for the community to come together, and for some of those younger players to get a chance to meet some of the guys they're going to watch on Friday nights. And they're playing in the same system. I know that's a big thing that the high school coaches talk about. If you want to be successful, you got to get your feeder program up and running. So you want to have a good relationship with those GFL coaches and make sure you're teaching the same things all the way up, so that when they get to high school, it's not as big of a transition. Your offense is similar, the technique they want you to do, all that stuff is similar. If you can get that stuff to match up pretty well, it builds for long-term success. It's why we kind of seen some of the local programs here go on the runs that they've had. Brookwood was successful for a long time. Archer's kind of got that momentum going now, and even with some of the losses they've had, I think we both think they're going to be pretty successful. And a big reason for that is they've got a feeder program that just churns out athletes and has guys that know what's expected of them when they get to that high school level. So it's Coach Herron's first year at Grayson. He takes over from Mickey Kahn, and he's just kind of trying to establish that relationship and get things going a little bit.
Yeah, you talked to Coach Herron a lot in the preseason. That Grayson's only had one football coach in the entire time since the school opened in 2000, Mickey Kahn.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you feel like Coach Herron's stamp is on the program so far? What are there things you can see that he's doing that are can you say this is the way Jeff Herron does things, or this is the offense Jeff Herron runs, maybe?
Yeah, a little bit. I haven't seen too much of their practices or anything like that, but I think you are going to see them kind of make a little bit more of a commitment to run the ball. He's a wing T guy, and they're going to have a lot of wing T elements this year, even with Chase Bryce and some of the athletes they've got. I think you're going to see them kind of have some two-back sets at times and things like that. They're going to, he's got a big offensive line. Those guys are huge. We mentioned them already, Will Taylor and Tony Gray up front. And that's, they've also got Jalen Jackson, who's another, he's well over 6 feet on the other tackle on the opposite of Tony Gray. Stephen Banks comes over from the defensive line. So I think that's kind of, they're going to be a tough football team that runs the ball. And why not when you got a guy like Jemias Williams and then also Michigan commit Kurt Taylor in the backfield? That's a pretty dynamic duo. Both guys are over 1,000 yards last season. So I think that'll probably be his stamp. They'll obviously still have spread elements because you can't not throw the ball when you have Chase Bryce, and they've got a really talented receiving core as well. So it'll be a good mix, but I think they'll probably maybe more wing T elements than we've seen the last 2 years from Grayson, which ironically is kind of what Grayson was known for prior to the last 2 seasons when they went to the spread with Chase Bryce. Yeah,
I think more of the power run game is what you can expect. I think they're going to have those backs. I mean, you got to use those guys, a big offensive line. And Coach Aaron's always done that. Even when we had Bryce Ramsey as a quarterback down there at Camden, he still had the power running game, still wanted to run the ball. Maybe use the pass, not all that often, but more of a big play threat. Let Chase throw some deep balls. You got those tremendous receivers out there you have to take advantage of as well. So it's going to be a very difficult team to stop. It's going to be fun. Like you said, those early season games are going to be fun. Is there anybody in that region you feel like can challenge Grace? I mean, can Archer give them a battle?
Yeah, I think Archer can. I think the biggest issue they may have is they're pretty young along the offensive line. They lost most of their starters from last year, and they're not. I don't think those guys are quite as big as some of the guys that Archer's had in place for the last 3 seasons that have been starting. But Archer's always got the athletes to match up with anybody, and they're going to play really good defense. And they've got Quinn Miller, and they've got some big defensive linemen back. Will Cholo kind of leading the charge there. So I think Archer can challenge them, and we'll have to take a look at it and see how some of the other teams are young. We'll see how they develop and if they can give them a game. Really push them. The one thing Grayson can count on is whoever they're playing, they're going to get that team's best shot. They're going to be, even against IMG, they may be favored. They're ranked higher at the moment, so which is kind of crazy to think about, considering IMG is made up of guys entirely with Division I offers. So that'll be one thing Grayson will have to see. Can they adjust to that role of being the hunted?
Yeah. I think South Gwinnett's kind of going to be a team that's a little bit underrated. You talked to Coach Small a lot in the preseason too, but I think there's a lot of talent over there at South Gwinnett, even with some of the guys they lost to transfers. There's still a lot of talent over there. I think Coach Small, being there for so long, he's developed a program over there. Like you said, he's got a lot of young kids that come to play for the Comets. They lose some guys to transfers, but there's still a lot of good talent over there. Definitely some Division I prospects, particularly on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, that defense is loaded. You talk about in the middle, they got Robert Cooper, who's a Florida State commit, which shows he's the smartest guy in the county. So, and then on the end, they've got Justin Maskell, big-time defensive end. That's number 2 player in the country for the class of 2018, according to ESPN. He can play. He's been playing since he was a freshman on the varsity. And the North Carolina commit, Malik Robinson, a linebacker, kind of the leader of that team. Coach Small told me those 3 guys have been huge this offseason. They kind of set the tone for the whole team, especially when we talked about, they lost some guys to transfers. They lost some guys that decided they didn't want to play football anymore and things like that. They're kind of got those 3 guys that kind of led the charge that, we're here and we're going to do things the right way. Like you said, they got a lot of athletes. The track team had a really good season, and I think some of those guys are going to play big roles, including Terrell Smith. I know they're excited about him. He's played some receiver in the past, and they're really excited about the length that he gives them as a cornerback. He's over 6 feet tall, and he can kind of, allows you to do some different things on defense when you have a guy that's got that length and can kind of jam guys at the line and give you a little bit more mobility to shift your defense and give him a little bigger slice of the field to cover.
Yeah, that kid was pretty amazing in track season. I got to see him several times in track and field. Just an impressive kid to be that young and to run as well as he does. I think he's got a very bright future. Well, appreciate you guys tuning in. If you get enough football here with us today, our football tab is coming out this weekend, our annual football section, our high school preview. It's 56 pages as usual. Preview a couple pages on every Gwinnett high school team, all the schedules, all county team, anything you want to look for in the preseason for Gwinnett football. It should be in that. It should be in your Sunday paper, so grab a copy. Also, keep an eye on GwinnettPrepSports.com this weekend. All our previews are going to be up online, so you can check out all our stuff there, projected starters, rosters, anything you need to get you ready for the Gwinnett high school football season. Appreciate you guys tuning in again, and we'll see you next week.